PBAàNoon. If this is your first time joining us, my name is Paul Benwell, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Sophie Caesar. It seems all we hear about lately is gold and silver, but today we have a treat for you. Joining us is Robin Dunbar, President and CEO of GridMetals, that's GRDM on the Venture Exchange, and Dr. Dave Peck, their VP of Exploration and Business Dev. Among other things, they will be discussing exploration on their East Bull Lake Palladium property, which is located near Sudbury, Ontario. East Bull covers highly prospective geological terrain, which offers exploration potential for palladium-dominant mineralization, but including platinum. The key metals targeted by GRID are used extensively in the automotive industry. Robin, or whoever's going to start, please, gentlemen, go ahead whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Yes, welcome everybody. And Dave, you're going to get the presentation up on the screen.
I will do that right now.
Okay. Yeah, so today we're going to talk a bit about, give a bit of an overview on our company. We've been around as an exploration company for many years. And this year I had a significant development with Dave Peck joining us. And maybe Dave, you just go to the corporate overview slide. Dave was the former VP exploration at North American Palladium. It was North American Palladium was acquired by Impala Platinum for $1 billion. And Dave had been working there for the last number of years doing all the resource development and exploration. And prior to that, Dave had also been with Anglo American in leading up their nickel group. So this is a key acquisition for us in terms of strengthening our technical team, and this has helped us in our quest for a discovery at our East Bull Lake property, which is a palladium property close to Sudbury. Just to give a quick corporate overview, we have 62 million shares outstanding. We just completed an $800,000 raise. We have about $2.3 million in the till. 800,000 of that is flow through, and we're just poised to start exploration at East Bull Lake. So maybe what I'll do now is turn it over to Dave and just talk quickly about the palladium market and why we think that's so important. And what we're doing at East Bull Lake and why we're pretty excited about it.
Thank you, Robin, and thanks, Paul. Good to be with everyone today. The palladium market I've been following for years, and going back to my time with Falconbridge and Anglo American, palladium was always the poor sister of the platinum group metal group, but it's certainly things have changed dramatically the last 2 years, and palladium has outstripped platinum prices for that period of time, and now more than double generally the platinum price. So it's changed the perception of the PGM miners, and certainly increased a lot of interest around the world for exploration projects that could deliver mineable palladium dominant deposits. These are rare in the geological space. Very few projects around the world have the potential to deliver a primary palladium deposit. East Bull Lake is one of those. I've followed this project for 30 years. I really started my career on East Bull Lake, and now coming back after seeing a lot of the projects around the world, feel very strongly we're in a discovery phase here. We're into something that's very fertile, very prospective, and bringing some different tools and exploration concepts. But just getting to the fundamentals, we don't have a lot of time. The palladium market has been growing fairly steadily in response to increasing demand, primarily for auto catalysts, mainly in gasoline burning engines. But it's also used in hybrids, and that's not a well-known fact. So Hybrid engines actually use higher palladium loadings than conventional gas burners. And that's going to increase the demand for palladium over time, even as we move into a period of growth for electric vehicles. So pure electric vehicles, there's not a lot of palladium or no palladium required. But the hybrid, which is a big component of that electrification push, do require more palladium than your typical gas burner. So demand is strong, largely driven by growth in the automotive sector in China, where the loadings there have increased steadily to meet Western standards. And we're riding that, I guess, with the East Bow Lake focus for GridMetals, trying to take advantage of the increased investor interest and a very bullish long-term view on palladium. So it's all about auto catalysts and auto.
Dave, sorry to interrupt. Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Move a little closer to the microphone here. Is that better?
A little bit.
Okay. The global projects that we know of, Robin mentioned a couple here in North America. There's only two primary palladium producers in North America: Stillwater in Montana, acquired by Sibanye out of South Africa 3 years ago, and Lac des Îles, which was sold last year, where I worked for several years, as Robin mentioned. There's a few other ones around the world. There's some in different geological terrains, different ages, and different risks. And I guess the key factor we're trying to emphasize with East Bow is a highly favorable risk profile of the project because of its location. So we'll move on to what is East Bow Lake all about? Where is it? Well, it's 80 kilometers west of Sudbury, Ontario. So you have the benefit of a very long-lived mining camp, still a large mining district, skilled workforce, a lot of technical know-how, and a lot of the support for exploration projects that you'd really like to have. Road accessible, all-weather road off the Trans-Canada, just north of the town of Massey, just west of Sudbury. And we've got a network of forestry roads that cut across the property, giving us access to drill sites almost year-round. There's very few areas we can't drill in the summer. A very few number of areas, targets we've identified will require freeze-up winter conditions, but mostly we're able to drill all year round. And the map on the bottom is showing the historical results of East Bow Lake in terms of the PGM exploration. What's shown on that map are color-coded symbols, circles. The bigger and brighter circles are higher grades in terms of the palladium grade of the sample. And this represents over 30 years of exploration, intermittent, some drilling, a lot of surface sampling and trenching. And you can see that the palladium mineralization is very widespread. We're looking at a project and a property that's over 20 kilometers long. And so the size of the intrusion is quite significant. The amount of exploration, we've really only just scratched the surface. And now we're bringing new tools and new exploration concepts to the program with Grid. We're applying a new deposit model really developed from Lac des Îles, my time there. And the map on the top left is showing the outline of the East Bow Lake intrusion. Again, the scale bars there, 5 kilometers, so the intrusion's over 20 kilometers. And the host intrusion to the Lac des Îles deposit, which is a 10 million ounce historical resource, is shown in the inset map on the right, and that is the same scale. So that intrusion is about 3 kilometers long, and the deposit itself, the primary resources there, sit in the little orange outline of the open pit, which is called the Roby Pit. It's about 1 kilometer north-south dimension. So you could see there's potential to develop several deposits of that size and that covering that area at East Bow Lake. What we're doing is looking in a nutshell for feeder structures, primary structures that fed the intrusion and carried in the known PG-rich, palladium-rich sulfides that we see at surface and near surface. And we're seeing a very good correlation between where is the mineralization that's at surface with respect to these structures. And the dashed lines here on the map on the bottom left are the interpreted major faults and potentially feeder structures to the East Bow Lake intrusion. And there are several of them. And collectively, they provide a strike length or target strike length of over 30 kilometers. So there's a lot of structures that could have been the focus for the sulfides and the palladium. And that model, the concept that the structures are critical to localizing mineralization, has really not been tested in the past. So we brought in a new geophysical technique known as magnetotellurics. And in simplified form, not to get into a lot of the geophysical mumbo jumbo, it's looking at changes in the electrical field in the rocks at the East Bow Lake intrusion using ground sensors to detect distortions in the passage of electrical current through the Earth's crust. And where there's a bit of additional sulfide in a rock, you get reduced resistivity or resistance or increased conductivity. And we've been able to apply that and see what looked like areas of enhanced sulfides to depths of up to and exceeding 1 kilometer. But it's a highly effective and very sensitive method. It hasn't been widely used for PGE exploration in the past. I had success with it on a project that I worked on at Lac des Îles with North American Palladium called Sunday Lake, and we used this with great effect to make a significant new discovery at Sunday Lake, in fact, at a depth of over 1.4 kilometers, excuse me. So just a little bit of snapshot of the results from the MT survey we did over the past 2 or 3 months. We finished it in early May. We've just completed the interpretation of the results. And the map on the top left is our Parisian Lake target area. It's sort of in the center of the intrusion. The little inset map on the right shows the location of the magnetotelluric survey grid that we're showing here on the map on the top left. And effectively the hot spots, the red areas, contoured red areas, brighter intensity areas, are the anomalies. These are areas of low electrical resistance or enhanced conductivity, and we feel these are likely reflecting the presence of increased sulfide and therefore palladium. And so these have never been tested. None of the anomalies circled. They're labeled PL4, PL2, PL5, PL3. They occur at various depths. None of them have been tested by previous drilling, but they all occur in an area of known mineralization that's hosted by one major structure, which is a dashed line I'm sort of highlighting here with my cursor, and maybe fed off of this large structure called the Sables Rivers Fault that runs northwest through the center of the property. The little image on the bottom left is a cross section along this section line here. And you can see the anomalies in sort of the third dimension from surface down to a depth of over 1 kilometer. And the real prize, I guess, for us was the development of a very large anomaly called PL4. And that's shown in these dashed lines. And it seems to come close to surface in the east and dip off to the west with kind of undulations that we might expect along the base of the intrusion, and the bright spots potentially representing really enhanced sulfide concentrations. So our initial drilling, which is just starting this week, will actually test this anomaly PL4. That's the first hole we'll test that anomaly. Just a quick comparison to Sunday Lake. Just on the left, that's the PL4 anomaly zoomed in. You can see a scale bar there, 500 meters. So this is a pretty large anomaly. And on the map on the right is Sunday Lake, the project in northwestern Ontario that I mentioned before that I was involved with. And the anomaly there is the same type of anomaly using the same system, magnetotellurics, by the same company, Quantec. Then this area had never been drilled, and the anomaly was detected at 1.4 kilometers. The first hole that we drilled into it, at hole 26, intersected 41 meters of 5.5 grams PGE. including 16 meters of almost 10 grams combined. So this tool looks like it's the right one for this style of mineralization, and we're very optimistic in the upcoming program. I think I'll skip that slide. We've got a number of target areas, some in the Parisian Lake area, some on the north margin, and another area in the east lobe of the intrusion. Down here, so the map on the bottom left shows the east lobe target area. So 3 areas are going to be tested. Parisian Lake will do in 5 holes, first stage of drilling starting now. Expect to drill about 2,500 meters there in those 5 holes. And with positive results, we'll move on to drill a couple holes in the east lobe and a couple holes in our north margin target area. So the near-term catalyst for investors is really, we're at the point of making a significant discovery. We're pretty confident about the geophysical results and the quality of the targets. None of them have been tested before. They do look like dead ringers for Sunday Lake style mineralization, PG rich in small amounts of sulfide, not detectable with conventional electromagnetic methods, but the magnetotelluric method seems to be doing the trick. So proof of the pudding will come in this first program, and with success, we'll keep drilling. So stay tuned for news coming out probably mid to late July. We'll have the first results. We'll turn it back to Paul.
Hi there. Perfect. We're going to start with some questions for you, gentlemen. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, super.
Okay,
yep,
perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, one question was, apart from the automotive industry, what other uses are there for palladium?
So the other primary uses, and they're all 2, 3, 4% of the total amount of production. They include dental amalgams, if you can believe it. That's still a significant use. The chemicals industry, often used in thermocouples for sort of furnaces and sort of industrial scale smelting and furnace applications, as well as in solid state hard drives, so electronics industry. So there's a scattering of those. Investment as well is a forgotten use. There were exchange-traded funds created for palladium a few years ago, and those have kind of ebbed and flowed with the price. Right now, they're at a low holding, but that's a use that people often forget about. That's an investment target.
So have you found platinum, which is often concurrent with palladium?
Yeah, so the typical palladium-platinum ratio of the mineralization we know about at East Bull Lake is about 4 to 1, 4 parts palladium, 1 part platinum. There's very few exceptions to that. It's a pretty consistent ratio. So we will get byproduct platinum as well as gold, and the other byproducts are copper and nickel. But the 3 critical metals, palladium is probably over 50% of the value of anything we're going to find. Copper is probably about 20%, and the rest is platinum, gold, and nickel.
Okay. Here, let me just pull up another one. What was the name of the new technology that you used?
Yeah, so it's colloquially it's known as MT, stands for magnetotellurics, and it actually doesn't use any current. You don't put current into the ground, unlike most electromagnetic methods. It uses just the Earth's natural electrical current generated from thunderstorm activity around the planet.
Excellent. Then I have this one. Why is the market cap so low considering the huge PD price?
Robin?
Yeah, you know, I think we rate fairly in line with our peers in the exploration and development space. You know, the difficulty of meaningful new discoveries has really been discounted by the market. So, you know, it's really going to be subject to the value of our company based on results we produce.
Excellent. How many other companies are in the area?
Right in the East Bull Lake area, there's one other company, Canadian Palladium. They have about 15% of the East Bull Lake intrusion. In one of the maps, there's a cutout. They have about a 500,000 ounce resource on their property, and they're currently drilling as well.
Okay, here we have some more. Any First Nations issues on the properties?
So
Or permitting problems?
We're fully permitted to drill. There's one First Nation that has territorial rights in the area. We have an MOU with them, and I can say at this time certainly relations are very good.
Oh, excellent. How do you compare to Generation Mining?
Generation has a much higher market cap. I think they're in the range of $45 to $50 million. They have a resource that's been drilled off historically, and they're at the pre-feasibility stage. It's a significant project, but I think it's a little bit different than what we're looking for as our project. More of the value would be based on palladium.
Okay. When will drill results start being released after drilling begins?
Sometime in July, mid-July, most likely.
Okay. Can you touch on cash position and burn, and will you be coming to the market for any financing?
Yeah, about 2.3 million in cash. We have some warrants that are in the money at 15 cents. It'll be about another $1.5 million. We would expect to complete this drill program and look at our financing needs based on the success or failure of that program.
Another question here. How long would it take you to have a 43-101?
It would take quite a while because we've really just started drilling. We want to first of all show the correlation between these anomalies we're picking up on MT and whether they're associated with palladium. And if they are, we've got a lot of drilling ahead of us. They're big anomalies. There's multiple, and there's going to be more. So I would say that a resource is going to be somewhere down the road for us.
That actually brings me to another question that I had here. So is the idea going to be to mine the property, or is it going to be to build it to be acquired or sold?
The only two palladium properties that are producing in North America have been acquired by South African interests. So our kind of view is if we find a high value deposit that's got the right attributes, it's more than likely one of the very large mining companies in the platinum group mining space would look to acquire this project, particularly where it's located an hour outside of Sudbury, close to the smelters. So it's mining it is not something we're contemplating at this time.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, we touched on that. Sorry, there's a couple of questions that are repeating. Is the area free from COVID restrictions, and are you fully prepared to move forward?
We are moving forward. There have been no COVID cases in the Sudbury area. We're expecting that all the restrictions will be, whatever they will be lifted. I think later this week. So yeah, it's we have a COVID protocol, but it's not a limiting factor for us right now.
Great. And can you maybe talk about who your main shareholders are?
Yeah, so the largest shareholder is a company called Western Areas. It's a nickel mining company out of Australia. They invested in our company years ago. We have a nickel copper PGM project in Manitoba, which we have a resource and a PEA on, but we're not working on that because of low nickel prices. They've got about 5 million shares, so just under 10%. We just placed about 5 million shares with funds, and we had some institutional shareholding in our placement we did in January. So, management owns about 5% of the company as well.
Great. I think we've actually touched on everything. If there's no more questions, Paul, I'll hand it over to you.
Yep, I have just a couple of quick questions. What are the specific uses of platinum, palladium in the car industry? I mean, what percentage of the car, you know what I'm getting at? Like when they talk about batteries for like e-vehicles, it's the percentage and the amount. So,
Dave?
Yeah, the typical palladium loading, you'll hear that term, in this industry. It's how much palladium is actually sprayed on a very thin, almost atomic level spray that's put on the autocatalyst screen. So the mesh that the gases flow through is about 2 to 4 grams per vehicle.
Okay.
So that's the typical loading. That's going up every year as the pollution.
I got you. And one last question. Are there any historical resources, like data on the properties? Anything you go back on to look at for like drilling targets or anything of that nature?
Yeah, we have a significant exploration historical database, lots of geophysical surveys, lots of drill holes, but shallow, testing a different type of model. And there's one resource on the property that was put out a couple of years ago that sits on the Canadian Palladium property. But it's not really what we're looking for. It's interesting, but it doesn't meet our grade tonnage thresholds.
Yeah, Paul, just as reference, when the price of palladium was high in 2000,
yep.
So 20 years ago, we joint ventured this property to Falconbridge, and they spent about $2 million line cutting, a lot of sampling, airborne surveys, trenching. They never actually drilled any holes when the price of palladium fell, but we've got a huge exploration database that would take years and cost us $1 million to recreate. So that's been a data bank that we've been able to use today. Yeah.
Well, I think that's it for the questions. Gentlemen, great story. Obviously, it's a unique metal, it's very specific. Not many in the world. So good luck on your drill program. And we'll keep everybody posted on the drill results and everything moving forward.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Thanks, Sophie.